Hi class, this is Mike Nolan and this is my week 5 multimedia discussion board posting. In this training posting, I'm going to be discussing the Santa Ana Police Department vehicle pursuit policy. Vehicle pursuits are inherently dangerous. They place not only the officers but the suspects in danger, and it's important that members of our organization understand the vehicle pursuit policy. The primary purpose of this policy is to provide officers with guidance in balancing both the safety of the public and themselves against our law enforcement duties and responsibilities to apprehend violators of the law. Another purpose of our policy is to ensure that we can reduce and minimize potential for pursuit-related accidents. Now it's important before we get into the learning objectives that we discuss what a vehicle pursuit is defined by in accordance with the Santa Ana Police Department policy. In accordance to the Santa Ana Police Department policy, a vehicle pursuit is described as an event involving one or more law enforcement officers attempting to apprehend a suspect who is attempting to avoid arrest while operating a motor vehicle by using high-speed driving or other evasive tactics, such as driving off a highway, turning suddenly, or driving in a legal manner but willfully failing to yield an officer's signal to stop. So the learning objectives in this training are going to be to go over three important highlights of the policy. 307.2.1, which is when to initiate a pursuit. 307.2.2, when to terminate a pursuit. And what I would probably believe is most important in this training is going to be 307.3.3, the primary unit responsibilities during a pursuit. Now, when discussing when to initiate a pursuit at the Santa Ana Police Department, so we're pretty fortunate. We have a pretty generous pursuit policy as to when officers are authorized to initiate a pursuit. Officers of the Santa Ana Police Department are authorized to initiate a pursuit when it is reasonable to believe that a suspect is attempting to evade arrest or detention in a fleeing vehicle. So simply put, if the traffic stop is initiated and the vehicle fails to yield, the officer can continue and then initiate a pursuit. Not all departments have such a generous policy such as that. My former agency had a policy that dictated that officers were authorized to initiate a pursuit only when they had reasonable cause to believe that the person in the motor vehicle had committed a felony offense or the driver of the vehicle was operating the vehicle under the influence of alcohol and or drugs and attempting to evade arrest or detention. So while our policy is quite liberal and generous as to when we can initiate a pursuit, there is some considerations that officers should make in determining when they should initiate that pursuit. Some of these factors include the seriousness of the known offense or suspected offense, the balance test in weighing the need to apprehend this suspect and the public and the threat they face to the public, or the threat the public will face should this pursuit continue, high speed, school zones, etc. Additional factors include if we know the identity of the suspect we're pursuing. They're a named suspect, we can always apprehend them at a later time. If it gets into a situation where we're reaching high speeds or putting the public in a grave danger. Some additional considerations are going to be your weather, traffic, road conditions, vehicle speeds, like we discussed, getting into these high speeds, other persons in the pursued vehicle, whether we have it's passengers, hostages, children. We probably aren't going to want to go on too horrendous of a pursuit if we're able to see that there's children in the vehicle. And we need to be considerate of the availability of resources. Do we have a helicopter assistance where we can break away and let the helicopter continue the pursuit? These are all going to be factors that we can use in considering when to initiate a pursuit. Now, I think even more important than knowing when to initiate a pursuit is knowing when to terminate a pursuit. According to this police department policy, pursuit should be discontinued when the totality of objective circumstances known or which reasonably ought to be known to the officer or supervisor during the pursuit indicate that the present risk of continuing the pursuit reasonably appears to outweigh the risk resulting from the suspect escape. And that's what I talked about earlier, the balance test of the need to immediately apprehend this suspect, or can we apprehend them at a later time, and is there a greater risk in letting the suspect evade and be captured at a later time. Um, Officers and supervisors must objectively and continuously weigh the seriousness of the offense against the potential danger to innocent motorists and themselves when electing to continue in the pursuit. So this is a continuous evaluation throughout the pursuit. Things can change drastically at any point during the pursuit, so officers and supervisors alike need to be continuously monitoring the pursuit for changes and reevaluating and justifying the need to continue in the pursuit. In addition to the guidelines as to when an officer should terminate a pursuit, some factors to be considered by both officers and supervision to include when terminating a pursuit is when the distance between the pursuing officer and the fleeing vehicle gets so great that further pursuit of the vehicle would be futile. Pursued vehicle's location is no longer known. An officer's pursuit vehicle sustains the type of damage that would render the vehicle unsafe. Oftentimes, with pursuits, a spike strip will be deployed. Unfortunately, sometimes the officer's vehicle gets spike stripped, and that means that you're going to need to pull out of the pursuit. You don't need to continue to jeopardize your safety by driving on a potentially disabled tire or tire that could be compromised. And additionally, a factor in considering when to terminate their pursuit is known hazards to uninvolved bystanders and motorists. That's going to be, high traffic areas, high traffic times, school zones, things of that nature. And lastly is the primary unit responsibilities in a pursuit. It's important that the primary unit understand his responsibilities for not only pursuit driving and radio communication during a pursuit, and those primary unit responsibilities are outlined in the policy of the department. So the initial pursuing unit is going to be designated as the primary unit in the pursuit. The primary unit's responsibility is the apprehension of the suspect without unreasonable danger to himself or other persons. Upon initiating the pursuit, the primary unit shall notify the watch commander and the communications commander of the initiation of the pursuit. As soon as practical, it is the officer's responsibility to map out several things because the supervisors are likely not going to be right there and readily accessible to jump in the pursuit. So, in accordance with our policy, there's several things that an officer needs to put out and able to be continuing in the pursuit. One is going to be the reason for the pursuit, the location and direction of travel, speeds of the fleeing vehicle, the description of the fleeing vehicle and license plate number if available and if known. Additionally, the primary unit responsibility is going to be the number of the occupants or known occupants in the suspect vehicle, the identity or description of a suspect or known occupant, and information concerning the use of firearms, threats of force, injuries, hostages, or other unusual hazards. Alright class, thanks for watching this training video, and I look forward to watching your videos.